Hello, this is Celtica. I've gotten a couple questions and I'm going to try to answer them. This just happened today. Two people asked me the same question, pretty much. One was in response to an email, excuse me. It's green tea. One was in response to an email. Well, first he asked me a couple questions about something. I responded, then I had to respond again because I didn't feel like I adequately answered them. And then after I felt I adequately answered them, he responded. And in that response was another question, which was quite simply, how do you connect to the higher self? That's a simple question, but it's a loaded question too. And then somebody else asked me the exact same question on Facebook chat. So I'm going to give you my version of connecting with the higher self. It's not really my version, but you know what I mean. I have to once again quote from this book, 20th Century Mage. And I talked about it before. I wanted to make a video about this entire thing and what I've been doing with it and every little practice that it outlines, because it's a fantastic book and you should get it. Basically, the concept behind the book is it takes an old magical rite, basically, not a rite, but a ceremony, practice, I don't know, I don't exactly know what to call it, called the, it comes from the book of the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage, and typically they just refer to the entire rite or practice as the Abramelin, because that's just what it's called now. Anyway, and this book takes it and strips out all and it's a 15th century text, so it's it's got some really crazy stuff in it. And so this book kind of takes away, or doesn't take away exactly so much as it gets to the root of this practice and exactly everything that was involved in it, and attempts to put it into not a modern framework, but sort of like a modern framework so that it can be used more practically today. And it's just as difficult, believe me. The only things that aren't exactly outlined is that you have to wash or bathe, I think, at least once a week. See, this was the 15th century, and since most of us take showers, if not every day, then somewhere close to that these days, they don't talk about that in here. Another one was you have to go into the forest and be alone for the entire 6 months, at least, that this rite takes. That's a very inconvenient thing for most of us in today's modern world. So just things like that. But I have to read something. So in regards connecting to the higher self, I sometimes use the term holy guardian angel, and mostly my understanding of that term comes from my own experience and from the definition in this book. And you know, I've said before that I don't like the term higher self too much. This is pretty much why. I'm going to read the entire thing, not the whole book, you know what I mean. And this is under the heading, doesn't matter. What is the holy guardian angel? You may be thinking that this angel is just a metaphor. You may still be holding on to the notion that a golden-winged being of light awaits you in some invisible realm. To tell the truth, directing your energy toward figuring out what an angel really is will not bring you any closer to the knowledge and conversation of that angel. This is another term that's used quite a bit in this book and in the Abramelin and in Crowley's works too, the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, which means exactly what it is. Knowledge of the holy guardian angel, conversation with, the ability to communicate with, and the holy guardian angel, which is a sacred being, which I'll get to the definition of that later. You might hear, you might hear the holy guardian angel referred to as the higher self. This is not inaccurate, but it can be misleading. The holy guardian angel is not you in any sense of your current concept of you. Many people think of their higher self as the best and most spiritual part of their personality. The higher self is their generosity, loving kindness, intuitiveness, and so forth. None of this has anything to do with your holy guardian angel. Your holy guardian angel might encourage you to be generous, or may inspire loving kindness, but it is not any part of your personality. It would be safe to consider it as a separate being because it is so foreign that you may be unable to reconcile your angel with yourself, even though your angel dwells in your innermost center. This is basically the entire crux of the argument, and where I'll always say I don't like the term higher self is because the self is a construct. The self, as we usually refer to it, is the personality, and the personality is a conglomeration of your upbringing, your culture, your genetic predisposition, your current modes of thinking, eating, whatever, your travel experience. Everything goes into making up who you consider yourself to be. And to say higher self really diminishes the importance and power of either holy guardian angel or any of the other terms that I'm going to soon list that refer to that being of which you are but a pale reflection, that oversoul or Atman consciousness, which you're just a little puppet of, basically. Not puppet, but you know what I mean. Okay, so that's the important one. The reason for this is very simple. That reason being it being difficult to reconcile your angel with yourself. You are not the product of your being. Okay, that's just basically what I just said. Cultural tendencies, combination of, in a unique way, juxtaposed on top of a spiritual infinity. This is not to diminish who you are as a human right now. A lot of you consider yourselves to be star seeds. You consider to have, at least one origin, if not several, in other galaxies, in other cultures on this earth that have since ceased to exist. Atlantis, Lemuria, all of you, a lot of people who watch this channel and the other channels out there consider yourselves to have ties to those races, for lack of a better term. And if you understand that, you understand that your core self, not self, personality self, but your higher self or highest self or holy guardian angel is the being that was there in all of those existences, that existed above all of those personalities and exists in a realm so beyond the third dimension and our current grounding here, it's almost impossible to know it. Continuing on. The real you is something of which you are, for the most part, unaware, although you may feel some faint cry of longing from this inner being as you wake up each morning to go once again. This part's unimportant. This is certainly not to say that spiritual unfolding takes place as you awaken to the karmic forces that have propelled you to where you are now and discover that you do not even know the real you. And this is another important part. Over the centuries, the holy guardian angel, and that's just the term that they use in this book, has been called by hundreds of names, including the Logos, Algoides, the genius, the higher self, the inner god, silent watcher, great master, the Daemon, Adonai, Vishnu, Atman, the other person, and even the Kabbalistic terms of Neshama, Chaya, and Yechida. I don't know how to pronounce those exactly. Abramelin the Mage and Aleister Crowley chose the name Holy Guardian Angel. This name implies no particular theory of the universe, and it would be silly, if not impossible, to try to react to cosmology around the name. Don't confuse the Holy Guardian Angel with any aspects of your personality, for there is no direct relationship between any part of your personality and the Holy Guardian Angel. Your Holy Guardian Angel is not a human construct. It is beyond that. If you hear somebody talking about their angel as an interdimensional being, or that they are communicating with Atlantis through their angel, they are talking about something other than the Holy Guardian Angel. On that point, I sort of differ in that if you do have a relationship with your Holy Guardian Angel, it can tell you all kinds of information about any civilization. But I think his point is just that, some people will say, oh, my angel told me that, I had a past life in Atlantis, or my angel did this, or my angel did that, and they're talking about something other than a real, extremely powerful experience of that ineffable interdimensional being. But as far as I'm concerned, that is up for debate. This is another important part, and I forgot to do an outline. Like, I don't do outlines normally on my videos, but for this one I wanted to because there are several things that I want to speak about. I'm not going to do the outline yet. Because this first, sorry, I don't know what's going on here. This first section here under what is the Holy Guardian Angel basically sums up the entire crux of this that I wanted to get across. I want to share with you a really big secret. You already have the knowledge and conversation of your Holy Guardian Angel. Okay, I will go to the outline. You are always in contact with your Holy Guardian Angel. It is always in contact with you. You are always connected to it. It is always speaking to you in no uncertain terms, but in terms that are difficult to understand because it's not necessarily a voice. You know, some people have a very strong connection to a voice that they hear in their head that they identify as their Holy Guardian Angel or higher self or whatever you want to call it. It is not a voice to me. It is much more difficult than that. Because I believe I do have a slight apprehension, if not comprehension, probably apprehension, of the experience of my Holy Guardian Angel. But you are always in contact with it because it is the ultimate and beyond of you that keeps you anchored here in this particular life. I did want to make that point. And that was in reference to the idea, somebody, when they asked this question, how do you contact your higher self? And I just said, well, the easy version is you just do it, because it's always there. There's nothing in your way except you, your mind, you know, whatever. But it also sounds like a cop-out, because just say, oh, you just do it, because, you know, I mean, you can sit there for hours trying to contact this, or stealing your mind, or doing whatever, and still be unsure. You may have heard something, you may have had a devastating experience, but because of our skeptical natures, because of our wavering natures, it's not the word I'm looking for, fluctuating natures, it's very easy for us to immediately put a judgment on something that we do hear or receive or feel or whatever, and say, oh, well, that could have just been my ego, my mind shattering away, could have been a disembodied entity for all I know, you know. And so we never know until you know. You already have the knowledge and conversation of your Holy Guardian Angel. You just don't know it. It's really strange, but once you experience this cosmic awareness, you realize that it's always been there. There is so much other stuff going on around you that it distracts you from the pure ecstasy of being that you're experiencing right now. The silent voice of your Holy Guardian Angel is always with you. And I didn't realize that before, but the silent voice of your Holy Guardian Angel is always with you. That's interesting. It is not somewhere else in some distant, lofty spiritual sphere. Excuse me. It is deep inside you. If you listen, truly listen, you can hear it beckoning even now. It is a soft voice, and you have to listen carefully. It is easy to mistake this voice for the many other voices inside your head. The way to tell, this is his, I'll talk about this in a second. The way to tell that your voice is your angel is that it will always be in favor of you, a quiet advocate. It is always encouraging you in and toward love. That's an interesting distinction to make. That he makes, the author of this book, I'm assuming. And it can be, at least for some of those of us who have extremely large egos, to be seduced by the idea, at least this is my opinion, that if you believe the way that you can tell your angel is your angel, and that voice is your angel's voice, is that it is always in your favor, then you may tend to ignore the advice not to do something. So if you hear a voice, or a silent voice, or a sudden apprehension, or a sudden knowing or feeling that you're supposed to do this certain thing, it could be easy to say, oh, well, that's obviously my angel because it's in my favor. That's not what it means. It's a quiet advocate. It's gently pushing you in and towards love. So it will tell you things that you do not want to hear. I'm just saying. Okay. There's some other stuff in here. Now, let me see if I can see anything else from my outline. What's my time? 15 minutes already. Maybe I'll split this up into chunks. Let's see, I have the problem of distinguishing between the higher self or holy guardian angel and from the ego or the chattering mind. That's a big one. I want to cover silence and stilling the mind. I want to cover something that I call sudden apprehension. And I want to cover something called a still mind versus an open mind. This is my own experience. I want to cover mantra and the states of mind during mantra practice, and I want to cover being inflamed in prayer. This is something that I'm going to start there, and then I think I'm going to yeah, I think I'll stop there.